Father which art in heaven.
Our Father which art in heaven.
Hallowed be thy name.
Hallowed be thy name.
Thy kingdom come.
Thy kingdom come.
Thy will be done.
Thy will be done.
In earth.
In earth.
As it is in heaven.
As it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread.
Give us this day our daily bread.
And forgive us our debts.
And forgive us our debts.
As we forgive our debtors.
As we forgive our debtors.
And lead us not into temptation.
And lead us not into temptation.
But deliver us from evil.
But deliver us from evil.
For thine is the kingdom.
For thine is the kingdom.
And the power.
And the power.
And the glory.
And the glory.
Forever.
Forever.
Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord.
For he is good.
For he is good.
And his mercy endures forever.
And his mercy endures forever.
Praise the Lord God of Israel.
Praise the Lord God of Israel.
For he is good.
For he is good.
And his mercy endures forever.
And his mercy endures forever.
In Jesus' mighty name we pray.
In Jesus' mighty name we pray.
The Holy One of Israel.
The Holy One of Israel.
The Mighty One of Jacob.
The mighty one of Jacob.
King of kings.
King of kings.
Lord of lords.
Lord of lords.
Amen.
Amen.
Today's scripture reading will be coming from Job chapter 14, verses 11 through 13. As the waters fell from the sea, and the flood decayeth and drieth up, so man lieth down and riseth not. Till the heavens be no more, they shall not awake, nor be raised out of their sleep. Oh, that thou wouldest hide me in the grave, that thou wouldest keep me secret until thy wrath be past, that thou wouldest appoint me a set time, and remember me. I have just read Job chapter 14, verses 11 through 13. May the Lord add a blessing to the reading, hearing, and doing of His word. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Praise the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And peace be unto you in the name of Jesus. Peace to everybody that's watching on Facebook and on YouTube eventually when it's get loaded up. Today's lesson, I titled it A Parable of the Fig Tree. A Parable of the Fig Tree. And this came straight out of Matthew 24, and he said this, he quoted this stating, once the tree give off its leaves, that's how you know that the summer is nigh. Pretty much letting you know that when all these events occur, that's how you know the end is near. So that is what this lesson is about. It's about recognizing the signs regarding the end and try to pinpoint the individuals that are involved in the end. And how I came about this lesson is kind of unique because I wasn't even trying to do anything like this. I started off doing something totally different, and eventually I was up to about 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning putting it together. So the Lord put it on my heart and it ended up coming out like this. So I pray you guys get some understanding. But we're going to start this off in Acts 2. Acts 2. We're going to pick it up at verse 1. When you get there, brother, go ahead.
And when the day of Pentecost was fully come, they were all with one accord in one place.
All right, so we starting this off, Acts 2, the Pentecost. We just finished the Pentecost about 3 weeks ago. So I felt that this was a great place to start from. So keep going.
And suddenly there came a sound from heaven as of a rushing mighty wind,
Uh-huh.
and it filled all the house where they were sitting.
Mm-hmm.
And there appeared unto them cloven tongues like as of fire, and it sat upon each of them.
Okay, so off top, we already know what we're reading. We're reading the day of Pentecost when the individuals start speaking in tongues. And the masses, like the whole religious masses, when we speak about Acts 2, the only thing that they consider is tongues. They think that the whole point of the Acts 2 is tongues. When it's not, they missing the whole point. In fact, the crux of what is happening in Acts 2 happened before already in Numbers 11. The fact that angels came down on individuals and they start prophesying. So that's not anything new, right? But keep going.
Verse 4. And they were all filled with the Holy Ghost, and began to speak with other tongues, as the Spirit gave them utterance.
Right.
And there were dwelling at Jerusalem Jews, devout men, out of every nation under heaven.
Uh-huh.
Now when this was noised abroad, the multitude came together and were confounded, because that every man heard them speak in his own language.
All right, so now, once again, this is during the Pentecost. The Spirit came upon these individuals and they start speaking in different languages. That's all tongues are, is different languages. You know, if I speak in Japanese, if I'm speaking in English right now, somebody from Japan come, I start speaking in Japanese, telling him what thus said the Lord, I'm speaking in tongues. So that's all it is. And, you know, the masses got that already twisted up. But I want to take you guys here because this is not the crux of what's going on. There's a bigger picture that's going on in Acts 2 that people just passing by, they're not even considering. But just keep reading. Go down to verse 9. Keep reading down to verse 9. So start at verse 7.
Verse 7. And they were all amazed and marveled, saying one to another, Behold, are not all these which speak Galileans? And how hear we every man in our own tongue wherein we were born?
Verse 9.
Parthians and Medes and Elamites and the dwellers in Mesopotamia and in Judea and Cappadocia in Pontus and Asia.
So I wanted to read verse 9 specifically because I feel like verse 9 is going to, it will bring a different picture once everything else and all the other lessons come together. But there's a bigger picture that's going on in Acts 2, and we're going to hit and we're going to address the bigger picture. So now let's go to 14, verse 14. And go ahead, pick it up on there.
But Peter, standing up with 11, lifted up his voice and said unto them, Ye men of Judea, and all ye that dwell at Jerusalem, be this known unto you, and hearken to my words.
So he letting them know, listen to what I'm saying. Everybody that is here. Keep going.
For these are not drunken, as ye suppose, seeing it is but the 3rd hour of the day.
Right, so it's 9 o'clock in the morning, so these cats ain't drunk. Keep going.
But this is that which was spoken by the prophet Joel.
All right, so Peter's about to tell individuals, what's going on here is what the prophet Joel was talking about. And the reason why Peter is stating this right now, because we can read throughout the whole New Testament, Peter, Paul, these individuals thought that the end time was going to come during their day, right? That's what they thought. They thought the end time was coming on in their day. So the fact that Peter is using the prophet Joel and what he's about to mention, we will see that, yes, them prophesying and what is going on, but the end times, which if you continue reading, that's about a later date that they didn't know at the time, but we should know, right? Like I said, the parable of the fig tree. So we're going to see the end times that is occurring today. But keep going, verse 17.
And it shall come to pass in the last days, saith God, I will pour out of my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, and your young men shall see visions, and your old men shall dream dreams. And on my servants and on my handmaidens I will pour out in those days of my spirit, and they shall prophesy. And I will show wonders in heaven above, and signs in the earth beneath, blood and fire, and vapor of smoke. The sun shall be turned into darkness, and the moon into blood, before that great and notable day of the Lord comes.
So he's telling them, okay, what is going on is what Joel prophesied, all right? And he's telling them this, trying to inflict fear into their hearts, because these individuals know what the Bible says. These are devout men who got scattered all across, right? And throughout Mesopotamia, Fargai, Egypt, Libya. So they knew what the Bible said. He's letting them know, hey, what is going on is what happened in Joel, right? And what will come next is wonders in heaven above, and signs on earth beneath, and blood and fire and vapor. And he's using the fear of the prophecy Joel stated to try to move the masses to, hey, repent, turn to the Lord, because the time is near. But it's not near then, but it's near now, right? Keep going, verse 21.
And it shall come to pass that whosoever shall call on the name of the Lord shall be saved.
All right, so whosoever shall call on the name of the Lord shall be saved. This is not stating like all you have to do is call on the name of the Lord and you be saved. That's what people try to state now. But it's whosoever. So whoever call on the Lord, it doesn't matter. Like the Bible says, my house is a house of prayer for all people. Right? It's a prophecy. Even in Genesis, Jesus told Abraham, through your seed, all the nations of the earth be blessed. So that's what pretty much is going on here. Whosoever call on the name of the Lord shall be saved. So he's letting them know, we're not drunk. What's happening right now is prophecy. And what's happening next is Jesus Christ coming back. So keep going. So now let's see what is he started preaching after he read or quoted the prophet Joel. 22.
Ye men of Israel, hear these words, Jesus of Nazareth, a man approved of God among you by miracles and wonders and signs, which God did by him in the midst of you, as ye yourselves also know.
So he started preaching about Jesus. So he started off like, hey, what's going on is the end times. And then he turned around to Jesus. So they considered, like even we will read it, but in Acts they said, are you now going to restore the kingdom to Jerusalem? So they all was on one accord thinking that at this time, Jesus Christ is going to take over the world and bring deliverance back onto Israel. Keep going.
23. Him being delivered by the determinate counsel and foreknowledge of God, ye have taken, and by wicked hands have crucified and slain, whom God hath raised up, having loosed the pains of death, because it was not possible that he should be holden of it.
So he's using Jesus as like, look, Jesus Christ is the man that came, that fulfilled prophecy, and he will be the individual that come back. So that's what he's saying. That's what we're going to read next. Verse 31. Go ahead.
He, seeing this before, spake of the resurrection of Christ, that his soul was not left in hell, neither his flesh did see corruption.
And hell here just means the grave. People try to run here and try to say, oh, Jesus Christ went to hell and taught these individuals or whatever. That's not. The hell is just another word for grave. Keep going.
This Jesus hath God raised up, whereof we all are witnesses. Therefore, being by the right hand of God exalted, and having received of the Father the promise of the Holy Ghost, he hath shed forth this, which ye now see and hear. For David is not ascended into the heavens, but he saith himself, the Lord said unto my Lord, sit thou on my right hand, until I make thy foes thy footstool.
See, so he's using the fear of the Lord to, hey, what happening here is what the prophet Joel speaking of. So we're going to take a trip back to Joel and read it and try to get an understanding what he's talking about, okay? But he's using that and said, all right, so now when Jesus Christ died, you guys crucified him. He died. He went to the third heaven. Now when he come back, he's going to make his foes his footstool. And he's stating that as if you better be on the right side. You better pick which side you're going on, right? Keep going.
36. Therefore let all the house of Israel know assuredly, that God hath made that same Jesus whom ye have crucified, both Lord and Christ.
So then what happened after they heard that? 37.
Now when they heard this, they were pricked in their heart, and said unto Peter and to the rest of the apostles, men and brethren, what shall we do?
So they knew what was going on as well. They were thinking like, oh, snaps, that's what's happening. So what shall we do to get on the right track? 38.
Then Peter said unto them, repent, and be baptized every one of you in the name of Jesus Christ for the remission of sins, and ye shall receive the gift of the Holy Ghost.
So the whole point of Acts 2 is to let individuals know that, hey, the kingdom of God is at hand, and Jesus Christ has some unfinished business to attend to. So you guys think it's all done and over with. It's not. So we better get on the right track now. So that's what he was preaching. He was preaching a fear to tell these individuals to get back on the right track. And it worked, right? Verse 43.
And fear came upon every soul, and many wonders and signs were done by the apostles.
So fear came upon them, and it says that they baptized 3,000 individuals. You know, and Paul as well was preaching the same thing, that look, during our time, Jesus Christ is coming. During this time, Jesus Christ is coming. Excuse me, hold on. So, excuse me about that. All right, so now we're going to go to Joel 2. We're going to go to Joel 2, and we're going to read verbatim what Peter was talking about in Acts, so we can be sure that it is the same script that Peter's using. And then we're going to take a step back and look at the whole chapter at whole to see exactly what day he's talking about and what is occurring during that time, that Peter will use this scripture to inflict fear in individuals' hearts to change their ways. All right? So we're going to go to Joel 2 and verse 28. Joel 2 and verse 28. Go ahead.
And it shall come to pass afterward that I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy. Your old men shall dream dreams, your young men shall see visions. And also upon the servants and upon the handmaids in those days will I pour out my spirit. And I will show wonders in the heavens and in the earth, blood and fire and pillars of smoke.
So far it sounds like the same exact thing that Peter said. 31.
The sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the great and the terrible day of the Lord comes.
So this is a very key scripture to hearken unto and remember this sign, okay? Because this will let us know and paint the picture every time we go to a different area of time throughout this lesson about where we are at during this vision, okay? 32.
And it shall come to pass that whosoever shall call on the name of the Lord shall be delivered. For in Mount Zion and in Jerusalem shall be deliverance, as the Lord hath said, and in the remnant whom the Lord shall call.
Okay, so now we see it's the exact scripture, the exact thing verbatim Peter was speaking of. So now let's go to Joel 2, verse 1, and let's read what he is talking about. What day is this? What is going on during this time? Okay, Joel 2 and verse 1. Go ahead.
Blow ye the trumpet in Zion, and sound an alarm in my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of the Lord cometh, for it is nigh at hand.
Okay, so this is the day of the Lord, the same day of the Lord that Peter was talking about, right? And Joel said it's nigh at hand. Peter was saying it's nigh at hand. They thought nigh meaning their time, but one day to the Lord is about 1,000 years to us, right? So it was nigh to God's times, but not necessarily to them. Verse 2.
A day of darkness and of gloominess, a day of clouds and of thick darkness.
Just like we read earlier in Joel 28:32, it said it will be dark. The sun won't give his light, the moon won't give out their shine. So it said a day of darkness and of gloominess, a day of clouds and thick darkness. So we're going to read why is it a thick darkness, okay? Keep going.
As the morning spread upon the mountains, a great people and a strong, there hath not been ever the light, neither shall be any more after it.
So during this day of the Lord, doing all of this, he's warning you, he's telling you the day of the Lord is coming, and then he starts telling you about a group of people. He's warning you about a group of people. So what does this people or these individuals have to do with anything? They said that they are a great people and strong that have not been ever alike, neither shall be any more after it, even to the years of many generations. Verse 3.
A fire devoureth before them, and behind them a flame burneth. The land is as the Garden of Eden before them, and behind them a desolate wilderness. Yea, and nothing shall escape them.
So these individuals are devouring anything in their path. In front of them is a whole city, beautiful green pastures and everything. And once they get past it, they leave fire and desolation behind. That's what it says. The Garden of Eden before them, and behind them a desolate wilderness. Yeah, and nothing shall escape that. So everything that crossed their path, they are destroying. Verse 4.
The appearance of them is as the appearance of horses, and as horsemen, so shall they run.
Okay.
Like the noise of chariots on the tops of mountains shall they leap, like the noise of a flame of fire that devoureth the stubble, as a strong people set in battle array.
So then he started telling these individuals are like a military power. These are some type of military individuals that's going on right now. Okay, they are in battle array and they are approaching you like noise of a chariot. Okay, so they go into step 4. So these individuals that Joel is telling you about, that Peter was using, are some men on this earth that's going to inflict war on individuals and harm on individuals. Verse 6.
Before their face the people shall be much pain. All faces shall gather blackness.
So that means they have no care. They don't care what's going on. Verse 7.
They shall run like mighty men. They shall climb the wall like men of war. And they shall march every one on his ways. And they shall not break their ranks.
All right, so they're going to stay. They all going to have one heart. They all going to be on one accord. Verse 8.
Neither shall one thrust another. They shall walk every one in his path. And when they fall upon the sword, they shall not be wounded.
So we're going to figure out why when they fall on the sword, they won't be wounded. Is it some type of spiritual beings, or is it something that we don't understand? We're going to take a more closer look during during this time in Revelation. But it says, neither shall one thrust one another, they shall walk every one in his path, and when they fall upon the sword, they shall not be wounded. Verse 9.
They shall run to and fro in the city. They shall run upon the wall. They shall climb up upon the houses. They shall enter in at the windows like a thief. The earth shall quake before them. The heavens shall tremble. The sun and the moon shall be dark, and the stars shall withdraw their shining.
It's the same time period, right? It's the day of the Lord. Verse 11.
And the Lord shall utter his voice before his army.
Wait a minute. This is the Lord's army. So we got the Lord's army that's on the ground doing all this hurt and harm to people. Well, who are these individuals? We should be able to pinpoint who is his army. Right? Keep going.
For his camp is very great, for he is strong that executeth his word. For the day of the Lord is great and very terrible, and who can abide it?
So during the day of the Lord, he is using his army to inflict pain on individuals. Okay? Verse 12.
Therefore also now, saith the Lord, turn ye even to me with all your heart, and with fasting, and with weeping, and with mourning.
Just like what Peter said. He gave them a reference of what Joel did in Joel 2:28 down to like 31, I believe it is. And then when they asked, what shall we do? He said, turn from your ways, repent. That's what the Lord is saying right here. Therefore also now, said the Lord, turn ye even to me with all your heart, and with fasting, and with weeping, and with mourning. Verse 13.
And rend your heart, and not your garments.
That means change your hearts. Stop all that. Don't change your garments. I don't care about that. Change your ways. Keep going.
And turn unto the Lord your God, for he is gracious and merciful, slow to anger, and of great kindness, and repenteth him of the evil. Who knoweth if he will return and repent?
So who knows if you sit here and change your ways, who will know if he will repent to inflict this harm on you? Because his army is going to come down and he's going to inflict harm on people. That's their job. So it's up to the Lord if they put harm in you or not. Right? So who knows if he will return and repent? Keep going.
And leave a blessing behind him, even a meat offering and a drink offering unto the Lord your God.
All right, so now we'll go to Revelation 9, and we're going to zoom in during that time period when all of this stuff is taking place, and we're going to try to give more details on the matter, try to see what is going on, okay? So Revelation 9. So this is Revelation. This is the Great Tribulation has already started. Right? The seals has already been opened, and now we are jumping into the fifth trump. Okay? Revelation 9, verse 1. Go ahead.
And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, as the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit.
So now we know why the sun and the moon does not give their light. The angel opened up the bottomless pit, and smoke and furnace came up, and now the whole world is dark because of that. Verse 3.
And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth.
So in Exodus, the locusts was pestilence, right? And they went around just bothering people the whole time. It was annoying. It was a nuisance. It said, there came up the smoke, they came up out of the smoke, locusts upon the earth. Keep going.
And unto them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power.
So the difference between these locusts and the locusts in Exodus was these will have power to hurt individuals. This will have the powers of scorpion. All right? Verse 4.
And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of God in their foreheads. So they are commanded to hurt these locusts. So are these locusts actual insects, or these are something else? The scripture is going to tell us what it is, right? But it says the seal of God in their forehead. So we all know about the mark of the beast, how it's going to be in the right hand or your forehead. But not a lot of individuals talk about the seal of God. The seal of God is nothing but the Father's name. We can read that in Revelation 14. And it says that these locusts will not hurt anybody or anything until the man which have the seal of God in their foreheads is identified. So what we read in Joel, when he said, who would tell you if you repent, that I won't repent from these works and not send these men to hurt on you. So if you repent,
you might get the seal of God in your forehead if you are in the great tribulation at that time, which we're close to it. It might be one of us. We might be in that time, which is why I said that's why the title is A Parable of the Fig Tree. I'm painting a picture that all this stuff is happening during our time. All right, verse 5.
And to them it was given that they should not kill them, but that they should be tormented 5 months.
So they won't kill these individuals at all who don't have who have not the seal of God, but they will hurt them for 5 months. So 5 months are they just going to put torment on these individuals? Keep going.
And their torment was as the torment of a scorpion when he striketh the man. And in those days shall men seek death, and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them. And the shapes of the locusts were like unto horses prepared unto battle, and on their heads were as it were crowns like gold, and their faces were as the faces of men.
So now we know that these locusts are actual human beings. And what's going on right now when John is writing this, John is seeing a vision that is occurring years down the line in our time. So the only thing that he knows is animals, farming, insects. So he's trying to draw a picture with words to describe what he is seeing. And he's not seeing anything to what we know as helicopters and tanks. That's what he's describing right here. Okay? He said, the shapes of the locusts were like unto horses preparing to battle, and on their heads were as it were crowns like gold. Talk about their wings, right? The helicopter wings, and their faces were as the faces of men. Because in the locusts, who's driving the helicopter is a man. So that's what he's seeing. He's seeing that picture. Okay? Verse 8.
And they had hair as the hair of women, and their teeth were as the teeth of lions. And they had breastplates as it were breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was as the sound of chariots of many horses running to battle.
Right. If you ever hear a helicopter take off, if you're close to them, they can actually resemble horses, a bunch of horses going off for battle. So that's what he is talking about, right? That's what he's seeing. That these individuals, this is what they have. Verse 11.
And they had tails like unto scorpions, and there were stings in their tails, and their power was to hurt men 5 months. And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue has his name Apollyon.
So that means nothing but the destroyer. So the king of these individuals is named the destroyer. All right, verse 12.
One woe is past, and behold, there come 2 woes more hereafter. And the 6th angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the 4 horns of the golden altar, which is before God, saying to the 6th angel, which had the trumpet, loose the 4 angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates.
So this is another key right here. During this time, the angel, the trumpet would sound, and then the angels that's holding the river Euphrates will let loose. And we're going to read that once that happens, the river Euphrates will dry up. Okay? So this is a key point of time to let you know when it is taking place. Saying to the 6th angel which had a trumpet, loose the 4 angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates. Verse 15.
And the 4 angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour, and a day, and a month, and a year, for to slay the 3rd part of men. So
these angels will slay the 3rd part of men. How are they going to slay the 3rd part of men? By this army. So I looked it up just recently. It's about 7.5 billion people on this earth right now. So a 3rd part of that is like what? 2.3? 2.4 billion people that this army alone is going to kill? Keep going.
And the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000. And I heard the number of them.
All right, so he said 200,000. One of the reasons why in the Bible they're always using thousands rather than using like 10,000s or millions, because 1,000 is their cap. So like when it was written, one day to the Lord is like 1,000 years. One day to the Lord is not 1,000 years. We can't put a time frame on the Lord. The Lord is forever. If we say his day is 1,000 years, that means he is limited, right? He has no limit. He has no time frame. But they're using 1,000 because that's as much as they can. That's the most that they know. So he's telling you, and the number of the horsemen were 200,000. That's 2 million. So this is a 2 million man army That's why in Joel, when it was saying when it stabbed one individual, when one man get hurt by the sword, he won't be wounded because it will be too many of them. Keep going.
And thus I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them, having breastplates of fire and of jacinth and brimstone, and the heads of the horses were as the heads of lions, and out of their mouths issued fire and smoke and brimstone.
Okay, so they are in battle array. That's what we read in Joel 2, verse 18.
By these three was the third part of men killed by the fire, and by the smoke, and by the brimstone, which issued out of their mouths. For their power is in their mouth and in their tails. For their tails were like unto serpents, and had heads, and with them that do hurt. And the rest of men which were not killed by these plagues, yet repented not of the works of their hands.
So even after all this stuff is going on, everybody's killing the Lord's army is killing these individuals. People are still, they still won't repent. They still gonna continue doing what they want to do. Keep going.
That they should not worship devils and idols of gold and silver and brass and stone and of wood, which neither can see nor hear nor walk. Neither repented they of their murders, nor of their sorceries, nor of their fornication, nor of their thefts.
All right, so now I don't have a handout of the Euphrates River, but I'm gonna have my man Slim here read an article by the New York Times in 2009. Okay, you can do your research on it. The Euphrates River has gotten worse since then. But I want to use this one specifically because we all recognize the New York Times as a reputable author. They say things appropriate. We believe them for the most part. So that's why I want to use this. So this is New York Times 2009.
Middle East. Iraq suffers as the Euphrates River dwindles. By Campbell Robertson, July 13, 2009. Jubeish, Iraq. Throughout the marshes, the reed gatherers standing on the land they once floated over cry out to visitors in a passing boat. Maku Ma'i, they shout, holding up their rusty sickles. There is no water. So
while they standing inside of this river, they are yelling and screaming out, there is no water here. Talk about the Euphrates River. Keep going.
The Euphrates is drying up, strangled by the water policies of Iraq's neighbors, Turkey and Syria, a 2-year drought, and years of misuse by Iraq and its farmers. The river is significantly smaller than it was just a few years ago. Some officials worry that it could soon be half of what it is now. The shrinking of the Euphrates, a river so crucial to the birth of civilization that the book of Revelation prophesied.
So they are taking notice that the book of Revelation prophesied that this was going to happen. And this is happening during our time. Keep going.
It's drying up as a sign of the end of times, has decimated farms along its banks, has left fishermen impoverished, and has depleted riverside towns as farmers flee to the cities looking for work.
Okay, that's enough. So now we read in New York Times that they stating, hey, the river Euphrates is about to be no longer. And we read in Revelation that once that trumpet blow, the river Euphrates is going to be no longer. So we're going to see what happens when that occurs. All right? So we're going to go to Revelation 16. We're going to read one verse. Revelation 16 and one verse. Verse 12. Go ahead.
And the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the water thereof was dried up, that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared.
Okay, so when the Bible, for majority of the time, give you north, east, south, west, they give you that frame of reference from Israel location. Because the whole world revolves around Israel. Jesus Christ cares about Israel. He don't care about anything else, right? So he says, and the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the waters thereof were dried up. We see the waters are already drying up, right? That the way of the kings of the east might be prepared. What is the east of Israel? That's separating that the river Euphrates is separating it. It's Iran. All right, so we're going to continue to get more information, but we know that something had to do with Iran going to come over the river Euphrates, and we know that the Lord have a 2 million man more army that's waiting until the end times that he's going to let loose on everybody and kill a third of the world. All right? So now we're going to get some more understanding. We're going to try to see who is the Lord's army. Who is this 2 million people? Like, what's their location? Is it Iran? Is it someone else? Who knows? We're going to figure it out. Okay? Isaiah 21. I'm not losing anybody, am I? You good? You good? All right. Isaiah 21. Isaiah 21. So now we have an understanding that Peter gave you end time prophecy from Joel because he thought it was happening during his time. And that was the whole point of Acts 2, was to get individuals to repent and turn back to the Lord because the end is near. Then we read Joel 2, and we have an understanding that what Peter was describing, the day of the Lord he was talking about that was putting fear on individuals, were this 2 million man army that the Lord is going to have during that day. All right? That's what he had. Because the day of the Lord is more than just when he come back. We read that Joel said the day of the Lord in Joel 2, and then right after that, he gave you his army. Okay? So now we're going to go to Isaiah 21 and verse 1. We're going to try to pinpoint who is this army. Isaiah 21 verse 1. Go ahead.
The burden of the desert of the sea.
All right, off top, the burden of the desert of the sea. So that's the sea is talking about is the river Euphrates. The desert that he's talking about is Iran, Elam, or let's say Iran area, Afghanistan area. That's how we know it nowadays. Back then it was like Elam, Persis, Medes, that area. So that is all desert. Okay, the burden of the desert of the sea. Keep going.
As whirlwinds in the south pass through, so it cometh from the desert, from a terrible land.
Okay, so man, this is a terrible land. Something's is going to come through this area. Verse 2.
A grievous vision is declared unto me. The treacherous dealer dealeth treacherously, and the spoiler spoileth. Go up, O Elam, besiege, O Media.
Okay, so he said, go up, O Elam, besiege, O Media. Don't forget, in Acts 2, I wanted you guys to read the fact where it says these guys came from Mesopotamia, Elam, Medes, because this is the same area that the Lord's army is coming from. They said, go up, O Elam, besiege, O Media. Keep going.
All the sighing thereof have I made to cease.
Okay, keep going. Verse 3. Matter of fact, I'm going to tell you to stop. Verse 3.
Therefore are my loins filled with pain. Pangs have taken hold upon me, as the pangs of a woman that travaileth. I was bowed down at the hearing of it. I was dismayed at the seeing of it. My heart panted. Fearfulness affrighted me. The night of my pleasure hath he turned into fear unto me.
So what is the night of my pleasure that he's talking about? He's talking about when Nebuchadnezzar in Babylon, in one night, the whole world got flipped over and the Medes and the Persians took over. That's what he's talking about here. And the Lord never changed. The same army he's going to use at first, he's going to use it again. So the same Medes and Persians who's going to take over Babylon in the future times is the same Medes and Persians that took over Babylon back then, who fought against Babylon. Okay? Keep going, verse 5.
Prepare the table. Watch in the watchtower. Eat, drink, arise, ye princes, and anoint the shield. For thus hath the Lord said unto me, Go, set a watchman. Let him declare what he seeth.
What he see, verse 7.
And he saw a chariot with a couple of horsemen.
We've been seeing this chariot and corporate horsemen. That's all we've been reading this whole time. Keep going.
A chariot of asses and a chariot of camels. And he hearkened diligently with much heed. And he cried, A lion, my Lord, I stand continually upon the watchtower in the daytime, and I am set in my ward whole nights. And behold, here cometh a chariot of men with a couple of horsemen.
What he say?
And he answered and said, Babylon is fallen. It's fallen.
That's the same thing he said in Revelation. So this is a double-fold prophecy. This is something that he talked about back then, because in one night, what it said? In one night, one night my pleasure hath he turned to fear. But then he's talking about Babylon is fallen, is fallen. That's not going to happen to Revelation. So keep going.
And all the graven images of her gods he hath broken unto the ground.
And who is he using for this? It said, go up, Elam, besiege, or Media. So this is the Medes in Elam. I'm gonna let you know this is the Medes in persons. This is what these are the individuals, and we got some history to corroborate that. But we're gonna go ahead and skip. Now we're gonna go to Isaiah 13. So in Isaiah 13, we're gonna talk about the day of the Lord again, and we're still gonna hammer this home until we can get a clear cut of who these individuals are. Isaiah 13, verse 6. Go ahead.
Howl ye, for the day of the Lord is at hand. It shall come as a destruction from the Almighty.
So this is still the day of the Lord right here. All right? People think the day of the Lord is just when he's going to come back. We can read the day of the Lord is when he sent his army on people as well. That's what we're going to read. The day of the Lord, the destruction of the Almighty, verse 7.
Therefore shall all hands be faint, and every man's heart shall melt. And they shall be afraid. Pangs and sorrows shall take hold of them. They shall be in pain as a woman that travaileth. They shall be amazed one at another. Their faces shall be as flames.
No.
Behold, the day of the Lord cometh, cruel both with wrath and fierce anger, to lay the land desolate. And he shall destroy the sinners thereof out of it.
Okay.
For the stars of heaven and constellations thereof shall not give their light. The sun shall be darkened in his going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine.
This is the same time that Peter was talking about, and this is the same time that Joel was talking about. Now we're reading in Isaiah. So during this time, all of this is happening. Verse 11.
And I will punish the world for their evil, and the wicked for their iniquity. And I will cause the arrogancy of the proud to cease, and will lay low the haughtiness of the terrible. I will make a man more precious than fine gold, even a man than the golden wedge of Ophir.
And how is he going to do that? He's going to kill a third of the world, a third of men. That's how he's doing that. Verse 13. Therefore
I will shake the heavens, and the earth shall remove out of her place in the wrath of the Lord of hosts, and in the day of his fierce anger. And it shall be as that chaste roe, and as sheep that no man taketh up. They shall every man turn to his own people, and flee every one into his own land.
This is how we know this is going to happen during the year of Jubilee. The 50th year or the year of Pentecost. All this stuff is happening because everybody going to return to their own land, per Leviticus 25. But keep going. Verse 15.
Every one that is found shall be thrust through, and every one that is joined unto them shall fall by the sword.
So everyone that get caught is going to get killed. Verse 16.
Their children also shall be dashed to pieces before their eyes. Their houses shall be spoiled, and their wives ravished.
See, the Lord has no boundaries. See, us men, we like, what we say, oh, I killed everybody but women and children. The Lord said, no, kill everybody. Get rid of all of them. Keep going. 17.
Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them.
The who?
The Medes.
So he's talking about the Medes. So during this time, the Medes he's stirring up against the, and who is the Medes in persons? It's the same one. Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them. Keep going.
Which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it. Their bows also shall dash the young men to pieces, and they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb. Their eyes shall not spare children. 19. And Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees' excellency, shall be as when God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. It shall never be inhabited, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. Neither shall the Arabian pitch tent there, neither shall the shepherds make their fold there. So when this happens, Babylon will be no longer, no one's even going to be even living in that area. It's going to be just like Sodom and Gomorrah, where it's uninhabited. Verse 21. But wild beasts of the desert shall lie there, and their houses shall be full of doleful creatures, and the owls shall dwell there, and satyrs shall dance there. And the wild beasts of the islands shall cry in their desolate houses, and dragons in their pleasant palaces. And her time is near to come, and her days shall not be prolonged. So desolation of Babylon, her time is coming. And how it's going to come, he going to use the Medes and the Persians amongst himself. But at first, he's going to use them. So now we identify who the Lord's army is going to be. It's going to be the Medes. So we're going to go to the encyclopedia. We're going to go to the encyclopedia. This is the 2018 World Encyclopedia. I got it at the library. I'm trying to buy it now. But this right here is the brand new one. This page 360, and
and this is Media. So we're gonna try to identify who are the Medes, where they came from, what is going on. Go ahead, bro.
Media was an ancient country that flourished in the 500 BC.
All right, so one thing I want you to is understand that Media, because we're gonna hear some of the same language when we talk about Persia. But I want to let you know that it says here, Media was a country that flourished. All right, so this country flourished. Keep going.
In what is now northern Iran. Media was
Northern Iran. So Iran is a big country. So northern Iran was Media. And I'm gonna tell you, you're gonna see why all this is important once you keep going. So go ahead.
Media was inhabited by the Medes, and Indo-European people who had come from the north about 1000 BC.
All right, so what is Indo-European? Indo-European is nothing but like a language spoken, okay? So 46% of the people today has some type of Indo-European language. Go from English, Persians, Russian, Greeks, Armenian, Iranian. All these individuals have an Indo-European language, okay? So, which is one of the reasons why the Holy Bible was written in English, because the majority of people in the world, we speak English, and so much of the Lord changing and can't change his name, that doesn't make sense. But 46 people today speak Indo-European, right? And they came from the north. Read that again, go some. From there.
An Indo-European people who had come from the north about 1000 BC.
Okay, the north of Media. So the north of Media, the Black Sea is above Media. And then above that is like the Caucasus Mountains, is the steppes of the eastern Ukraine, South Russia. So toward that area is where these individuals came, during 1000 BC, okay? Keep going.
Assyria, a powerful country to the west, invaded Media in 836 BC.
So Assyria was already doing their thing at this time. So as we know, Assyria was not, I can't say they was a world power, but they was coming abroad. They was trying to come up to become a world power. According to the scriptures, the first world power was Babylon, right? So they was trying to come up. They even took Israel. They took Israel first captive. So Assyria was there, and they was beefing with the Medes the whole time. Keep going.
Many other Assyrian invasions of Media followed.
So they continued to fight up. For the whole time, they continued to fight. Keep going.
The Medes formed a unified state about 700 BC.
So a unified state, I know I keep on cutting things off. I'm trying to make sure you guys follow as we go along to pinpoint who the Medes and the Persians are. So a unified state. All right, so during this time, the Assyrian, they ruled with the iron fist. They was extremely, extremely harsh. So the states that Assyria controlled continued to rebel, right? And while they was rebellion, the king of Media at the time unified the states. And how he unified the states, he unified, what was it? It was, I thought I had it written down. But it was Elam, it was Persia, it was, I do have it written down. It was Elam, it was Parthians, and Persians. And then also it was Medes. That's the same individual we read in Acts 2 that Israel came from. So all that became unified and all became one during this uprising in the civil war of Assyria. Keep going.
And had their capital at Ecbatana, now Hamadan, Iran. They reached the peak of their power under Cyaxares, who ruled from 625 to 585 BC.
So Cyaxares is the individual that made the state one. He was the first king of Media that did something. Everybody else was continuing to get killed because Assyria was too strong. Keep going.
Cyaxares defeated Assyria and built an empire that included parts of what are now Afghanistan, Iran, Pakistan, and Turkey.
So how he beat Assyria was that he and his one state ended up teaming up with Babylon and their one state, and they fought against Assyria. And it was too much for Assyria, so they said whatever. So in that conquest, the Medes took over more of what was Assyrian land. So they grew, and they took up half of Iran plus more. All right, keep going.
Astyages, the son of Cyaxares, was the last Median king. Cyrus the Great of Persia defeated Astyages about 550 BC. Cyrus incorporated Median lands into the Persian Empire and made Media a Persian province.
So once Cyrus took over, because the Medes and the Persians were like they're hand tight. They came from the same tribe in the same area, that's what we are going to read. But they lived in the same area. Persis is where Persia is actually is. It's a little small town above the Gulf of Persia. And that is when, once they united, Cyrus, after so long of a time, ended up growing, rebelling, and taking over all of Medes, and ended up calling it Persia. And all of that was his, so they call it Persia. Yeah, so now, So now let's go to Scriptural Bible Dictionary, and let's look at something else regarding the Medes. So 520. So Pictorial Bible Dictionary, Median, page 520. Read what's highlighted.
The people of Media were warlike and skillful in their use of the bow. They were linked very closely in their background. Linguistically and religiously to the Persians, whom they antedate by several centuries and with whom they eventually united.
All right, so it says the people of Median were warlike and were skillful, right? They were linked closely in their background, linguistically and religiously, to the Persians. So they believe and talk the same. The Indo-European language is so vast, it's so big, but individuals, like for example, English don't speak anything like Persian or Indian or Arabian, but they still came from the same language. So the tribe and how you spoke is how you migrated. So these individuals migrated to the same area, and they believed in the same thing, they talked the same, but Media became empowered way before Persia did. So we know that it's two different countries, two different nations, what we're talking about. In Daniel, it says it says one horn will be bigger than the other horn, and that horn that was bigger was Persia, the smaller horn was Medes. But the horn represents kingdoms, so we know these two different kingdoms. All right, I hope I'm not losing you guys. So now let's go to Persia. Let's see what's going on with Persia. So now we have a little understanding about who the Medes were, where they came from. Now let's go into Persia. So this is still the World Encyclopedia, 2018.
Page 296. Persia, ancient, was a land that included parts of what are now Afghanistan and Iran. It became the home of a great civilization and the center of a vast empire that included most of the southwestern Asia and parts of Europe and Africa. The Persian Empire reached its height in the 500 BC.
All right, so the Persian Empire reached its height in 500 BC. But we read that the Medes reached their height in 500 BC. Why is that? Because Cyrus took over everything and was running everything through the Medes. See, what I learned was that Persia is an area. It's also a land and a people, but it's an area. And the reason why, we're going to read why it's an area. So this area of Persia thrived, and the empire thrived in 500 BC. Keep going.
It lasted in various forms for more than 1,000 years, except for a time in the 300 BC, when it was conquered by the Macedonian ruler Alexander the Great.
We can read that in the Bible. Keep going.
The Persians made important contributions in government law and religion. They developed an efficient Pony Express system of mail delivery, built a network of highways and an irrigation system, and tried to standardize weights and measures. The Persians treated their subjects better than earlier rulers had.
And the reason why they mention that is because, like I said, the Assyrians and the Babylonians ruled with the iron fist. Assyrians didn't. The Persians didn't. The Persians allowed Israel to follow their own religious practice, which we can read in the Bible. Right? Keep going.
The Cyrus the Great cylinder, a document on baked clay, indicates that the ancient Persians allowed the people whom they conquered to practice their own religions and customs.
Which is why we was allowed to go back to Israel and build the second temple. Keep going.
The name Persia came from Persis, the Greek name from the area.
See, so Persis is the actual land. It's right above the Gulf of Persia. It's a very, very, very small land. In the middle of that land was Elam, which we read in, Isaiah. It said, go up, Elam, conquer, O Medes, because it's talking about that area. Then above that was vast Medes. So the Medes were like the power, The Medes were the powerhouse, but Persians were like the smart individuals, which is why Cyrus ended up taking over. Keep going.
The Persians themselves later called the region of the land of the Aryans, from which Iran comes.
So the language, the Persians ended up calling the area Iranians. That's where Iran came from. So we, without a doubt, know that Iran is a descendant from Persia because that's what they named it. They named it that, right? Keep going.
The Persians called their language Aryan.
Okay. So now let's go to the Pictorial Bible Dictionary, and then we're going to look at Persian.
Page 639. The Persians belonged to the race or group of nations which spoke the hypothetical Indo-European language.
Which that's what we already talked about. So the Persians came from individuals who spoke from that language. Just like the Medes came from those individuals that spoke from that language. Everybody don't speak that same language. So like Romans have a different type of Indo-European language. So when they try to communicate with the Sauls, which we will learn that's who they are, and they have a hard time communicating. That's how they identify people, was by their language. Okay, keep going.
So called and conjectured because most of the languages of Europe together with the Indic languages descended from it.
Right.
The Iranian dialects formed a southern group, a common linguistic ancestry, and therefore, in all probability, a common homeland can be demonstrated for all this group.
So they had like they have a form of an accent. The Iranians have a different type of accent from everybody else. Keep going.
Migrations during the 3rd and 2nd millennia before Christ, mainly W, E, and S.
W, E, and S is west, east, and south.
Appeared to have spread tribal groups who spoke a common language through the European peninsulas.
All right, so the tribal groups came through the 2nd and 3rd millennium before Christ. What is that? That's 1000 BC, 2000 BC. That's what we read, that 1000 BC is when the Medes came over. And we also want to read that the Persians came along with them. Keep going.
Into India and the northern Middle East. The picture is complex. Britain itself, for example, experienced 3 waves of invasion.
So they came in waves. They all didn't come at one time, which is another way why the Medes were the Medes and the Persians were the Persians. They came in different waves. They came at different times. All right, keep going.
Celtic, itself multiple, Roman, and Teutonic. Angles, Saxons, Danes.
All right, so yeah.
In Persis, the Persians were at first subject to the power of their northern neighbors.
See, so Persians, which are Persians, were controlled by Medes. Which the Lord, that's why the Lord always say the Medes and not Persians. Keep going.
The Medes, although Elam encroaching from the west, tended to form a buffer state between them.
See, so Elam being in the middle came from the west, was a buffer state between the Persians and the Medes. Keep going.
Through Elam, Persis had contact with the developed civilizations of the Euphrates Valley. On the other hand, it may have needed no more than the emergence of a masterful personality to initiate the process. Such a person was Cyrus, second of the name from the ruling family of the Achaemenids. Cyrus is the Latinized form of Greek Kyros, Persian.
Yeah, let's go ahead. Let's go read on that. Yeah.
Cyrus was related to the Astyages, king of Media.
All right, so the king of Media, Astyages, he was related to. So the individual that came through the line that created one state for the Medes, Cyrus was related to that individual. That's how he ended up going into kingdom, because he outsmarted, after he died, he outsmarted everybody else and ended up killing his relatives and ended up taking over everybody, which brought the state. Keep going.
Rising against his relatives, Cyrus threw off the Median hegemony, and established the Persians as the dominant tribe in 549 BC.
So that's why it's Persia. All right, but it started off with Medes, but everything ended up being known as Persia because of that. All right, so now we know kind of where, now we know kind of where the Medes are and what happened with the Medes and the Persians. Now we're going to try to identify, because the whole point is to identify these individuals, right? So now we're going to try to identify these individuals and see who they are today. All right? So now we've done this, and we got just a little more references. So now we did that. So we're going to start with the Slavs. We're going to try to figure out who the Slavs are and how they relate. So this is still the Encyclopedia 2018. Go ahead.
Slavs are any of the several groups of people, most of whom live in Eastern Europe. There are about 300 million Slavs. They speak similar languages called the Slavic and Slavonic languages.
That's what Iran and Russia and all these individuals speak as of this day, is those languages. Keep going.
The first Slavs may have lived more than 5,000 years ago in a region that now forms part of northwestern Ukraine and southeastern Poland.
And that's what they came from when they came and took over Iran, and they created Medes. Keep going.
From the AD 200s to the 500s, they migrated to other parts of Europe. Some Slavs settled in what is now Western Russia and in other parts of Eastern and Central Europe. Other Slavs settled in the region of southeastern Europe called the Balkans.
All right, so now after they took over, after Jesus Christ died and resurrected, they started migrating other places. But that's where they originally came from, was the Ukraine area. Now read the other highlighted part.
In 918, after World War I ended, the Slavs established such independent states as Czechoslovakia,
That's right.
Poland,
We know what that is. We know what that is.
and what later became Yugoslavia.
We know what that is, right? That's all in the Russian area. Keep going.
Germany conquered these states during World War II, 1939 through 1945. The Soviet Union dominated most Slavic peoples from its formation in 1922 until its collapse in 1991.
All right, so the USSR controlled all the Slavic people. All right, so why does that matter? Okay, Russia. This is about Russia. Go ahead, keep going.
Ancestry. Approximately 80% of Russia's people are of Russian ancestry.
So they have their own ancestry. Keep going.
They make up the largest group of Slavic peoples.
So they are Slavic. The Russians are Slavic. Just like how we read Iranian and the Medes and all of them are Slavic as well. Keep going.
Members of over 100 other nationality groups also live in Russia. The largest groups include Tatars or Tartars, Ukrainians, Chuvish, Bashkirs, Belarusians, Mordvins, Chechens, Germans, Udmurts, Mari, Kazakhs, Avars, Armenians, and Jews who are considered a nationality group in Russia.
So these are different types of Jews, which is why the Jews look the way they look at now, which is a different lesson. But remember I told you they came in waves. So there's more than just there's more than just one type of ancestry or one type of Slavic group of people. All of those people are Slavic and they all reside in the same area. All right, go to the ethnic Russians.
Ethnic Russians are descended from Slavs who lived in Eastern Europe several thousand years ago.
There it is. So they are descendant of the Slavs. So following down the ancestry, the Medes and the Persians are Russian, Iran, Germany, and everyone in that area. So when the Lord sat there and says, the river Euphrates is going to dry up and the individuals from the east is going to come into your land and take over, that was Iran. Who was that? That's the Persians. That's the Medes. Keep going.
Over time, migration split the Slavs into three subgroups: the East Slavs, the West Slavs, and the South Slavs. The Russians trace their heritage to the first East Slav state, Kievan Rus, which emerged in the 800s.
All right, so there we have it, that they are the Slavs, and their whole ancestry is the Slavs. Oh, you not read that. Go ahead and skip that. You pretty much hit it already. Yeah, go ahead and skip that. So now we have an understanding that who the Medes and the Persians are to this day, which is the reason why Russia is standing up to America, and Russia putting its foothold in America, and how Russia is taking over Ukraine, and that whole little Ukraine fight is happening. They've been fighting amongst each other since the beginning of time, but they are the Slavs, and they will be the individuals with the 2 million man army that will come across the river of Euphrates and fight the abomination of desolation, which is who we are about to get to now. So like I said, the title of this lesson is the parable of the fig tree. So we are identifying what is going on, why is Peter's using the things that he's used, and what time frame is that happening. All that's happening in our time frame. So we're going to get back to the Bible. We're going to go to Daniel 11. So Daniel 11 is a very complicated chapter in itself, but we skipping majority of it and going towards the end. Daniel 11 is a chapter of the Diadoches, starting off with Medo-Persian falling and Alexander the Great taking over. But we're going to skip all the way down to the end, to the abomination of desolation. Daniel 11 and verse 36. Go ahead.
And the king shall do according to his will.
This king is the abomination of desolation. He will do according to his will. Keep going.
And he shall exalt himself, and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished.
So he's going to prosper and do his thing until the indignation be accomplished. What is that? Until the 3.5 years be accomplished. So he's going to do his thing until that is done. Keep going.
For that is determined shall be done.
It's already determined. It's already written. Verse 37.
Neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women.
Which religious leaders as of right now don't desire women? The Catholic Church. That's what we're talking about right now. Keep going.
Nor regard any God, for he shall magnify himself above all. But in his estate shall he honor the God of forces, and a God whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold and silver, and with precious stones and pleasant things. Thus shall he do in the most strongholds with a strange God, whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory, and he shall cause them to rule over many.
So with this strange God, and with all of this army and technical that he had, the beast and the false prophet, he's going to rule many people. He's going to rule almost everybody. But, verse 40. But my bad, continue.
And
Yes.
shall divide the land for gain.
All right, verse 40.
And at the time of the end shall the king of the south push at him.
Like I said, anytime you get any northwest, east, south, it is starting from Jerusalem. So at this time, the king of the south will push at him. What's the king of the south? From Jerusalem. That's Egypt. So Egypt will push at him, and what else?
And the king of the north shall come against him.
What's
like
the king
a
of the
whirlwind.
north? That's Russia area. Keep going.
Come against him with a whirlwind, with chariots, and with horsemen, and with many ships. And he shall enter into the countries, and shall overflow and pass over. He shall enter also into the glorious land, and many countries shall be overthrown.
But what?
But these shall escape out of his hand, even Edom, and Moab, and the chief of the children of Ammon.
So when you get ready, when the great tribulation occurs, and you get ready to flee to the wilderness, this is where you're going. Because everywhere else will be taken over, but Edom, Moab, and the chief of the children of Ammon. So during that area right now, that's all desolate. But this area, we clearly read, will not be taken over by the abomination of desolation or by the Medes and Persians. 42.
He shall stretch forth his hand also upon the countries, and the land of Egypt shall not escape.
So he gonna get rid of Egypt. Egypt gonna push at him, and he gonna be like, man, you ain't nothing. Verse 43.
But he shall have power over the treasures of gold and of silver, and over all the precious things of Egypt. And the Libyans and the Ethiopians shall be at his steps.
So what happened at verse 44?
But tidings out of the east and out of the north shall trouble him.
So tidings out of the east and out of the north shall trouble him. What is east of Israel? Iran. What's north? Russia. Who is that? That's the Medes and the Persians that the Lord's going to use to fight against Babylon, which he did before. This is the 2 million man army he is talking about. Keep going.
Therefore he shall go forth with great fury to destroy, and utterly to make away many. And he shall plant the tabernacles of his palace between the seas of his glorious holy mountain, and yet shall come to his end, and none shall help him.
So now let's try to figure out when is all this going to occur. So we got who, what, we got who, we got what. Now let's figure out when. Matthew 24. Matthew 24 and verse 32. Matthew 24 and verse 32. Go ahead.
Now learn a parable of the fig tree.
This is where I got the lesson from. Learn the parable of the fig tree. What is it?
When his branch is yet tender, and putteth forth leaves, ye know that summer is nigh.
So when all this stuff is occurring, you know that summer is close. Right? Verse 33.
So likewise ye, when ye shall see all these things, know that it is near, even at the doors.
So when we see the things we are about to read, know that the end is close. Peter and Paul couldn't read these things like we can read and say, oh yeah, it's close. Keep going.
Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass, till all these things be fulfilled.
He's not talking about the generation that he's speaking to. He's talking about the generation that sees all of this. When they see all of this, they will not pass until everything be fulfilled. All right? So let's see where we're at. Matthew 24, verse 3. Keep going.
And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world?
So this is a loaded question. When all this stuff is going to happen, when will the end of the world, not the end of the world as far as there's no more earth, but the end of the world as we know it? Verse 4.
And Jesus answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you.
Off top, take heed that no man deceive you. That's the first thing he's thinking, which is pretty important, right? Verse 5.
For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet.
This is happening already. We're seeing wars and rumors of wars. We got people saying they are Christ. So this is happening. When it says, hear the parable of the fig tree, when his branches is yet tender and put it forth leaves, you know summer is not. So this stuff is happening so far. Keep going.
For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom.
That's what's happening now. Ukraine, Russia, that one crazy dude that keep everybody in the dark. I can't think of his name. Way off in the east. Yeah, North Korea dude. All right, let's keep going.
And there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in divers places.
Every time you turn on the news, earthquake.
All these are
hurricanes. Something's going on. Keep going.
All these are the beginning of sorrows.
This is just the beginning of it. So this is what we're seeing as of us today. This is just the beginning of it. Verse 9.
Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake.
This hasn't happened yet, but it's occurring. We see it. I mean, what? Because of those crazy Hebrews on the corner, the Hebrew Israelites are what? One of the
IUIC.
huh?
The IUIC.
Yeah, they are now one of the government watch lists. Like, it's already happening. I go to work, people already say, oh yeah, you one of those cats. The homie get hired, oh, you just like Rashad, huh? Oh, okay. So we already being identified. This is happening next. Verse 10.
And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. And many false prophets shall rise, and shall deceive many. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. But he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved.
So much for the rapture. Right? You got to endure all of this in order to be saved. Keep going.
And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations.
That's what we're trying to do now. That's why there's YouTube. That's why there's Facebook. Elijah out here putting in work. Bowie trying to put in work. And we all trying to grow up under him, right? So all of this is occurring. So much for Peter and Paul thinking it's happening during their day. We see the river Euphrates getting dried up in our day. We are identifying the Medes and the Persians. We are identifying the abomination of desolation in our day. Israel's starting to wake up. We can read in Deuteronomy where it says, when my people start to wake up, you know what's coming. Right? Keep going.
And then shall the end come. 15. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand.
If you don't read the Old Testament, how are you going to figure out who this man is? 16.
Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house.
Now, he's not saying necessarily don't run back in your house and get some. He's showing urgency. Like, hey, once this happened, you better get ready to go. Because if you get trapped in this, that's it. And where do you need to go? To the wilderness. I already told you where the wilderness was. The place where the abomination and desolation will not take control of. Ammon, Moab. That area is where you should flee to. And Lord willing, you make it. Because just because you're fleeing don't mean you'll make it. Don't forget about Lot's wife. She was fleeing. Right? Keep going.
18. Neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. And woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. But pray ye that your flight be not in the winter, neither on the Sabbath day.
So he's talking about the end times, and he said, pray that your flight is not on the Sabbath day. I thought the laws were done away with. So somebody's lying here. 21.
For then shall be great tribulation.
So when abomination and desolation stand in the holy place, that's when the great tribulation is going to knock off. Right? That's when it's going to knock off. So, but for then will be great tribulation,
such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. So he has to come back and shorten it, or everybody's going to be done. It's going to be dead. So now let's go to Acts 1. We almost done. So during that time, great tribulation going to hit. The abomination and desolation going to do his thing until the day of the Lord comes. He's going to use his army to start killing people. After he used his army to start killing people, then the Lord going to come back. So that's what we're going on there right now. But before we get there, I just want to prove to you once again another scripture that all the disciples and individuals around during Jesus' time thought that the end was going on in their time. But it wasn't for them, it was for us. So that same fear that they had in Acts that got 3,000 people baptized in one day because they thought the end was near, we should have that fear because the end is literally near. It's not going to come in 2,000 or 3,000 years like in their time. Acts 1 and verse 6. Go ahead. When they therefore were come together, they asked of him, saying, Lord, wilt thou at this time restore again the kingdom to Israel?
So after Jesus Christ came and resurrected, he said, are you going to restore the kingdom of Israel now? He was talking to these people when he says, tell us what these signs will be, what the signs that are coming in the end of the world. Right? He was the one who was telling this. He told these individuals, this generation shall not pass until all be fulfilled. So they're asking him, after he raised from the grave, are you going to come back and destroy Israel now? And then what did he say?
And he said unto them, it is not for you to know the times or the seasons.
So it wasn't for them. That's what I put out here. It wasn't for them. It was for us. Keep going.
Which the Father hath put in his own power.
All right. So now let's go back to Matthew 24. Let's go to 29. We got a few verses. Matthew 24 and verse 29. Like I said, man, this lesson came to me literally overnight, and I wasn't even trying to head to this direction. This is what occurred. So, Matthew 24, 29. Go ahead.
Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken.
Here we go. We read it again. This is the same thing we read in Joel. Keep going.
And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other.
So after he gathered them, they all going to go to heaven and they're going to stay. Nah, they're going to go right back to what? And then they're going to fight. That's what we're going to read. Zechariah 14. Zechariah 14 and verse 1. 14 and 1. Go ahead.
Behold, the day of the Lord cometh, and thy spoil shall be divided in the midst of thee.
The same day of the Lord that Paul, Peter, Joel, Isaiah was talking about. It's the same day of the Lord. Now Zechariah is talking about it. Keep going.
For I will gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle, and the city shall be taken, and the houses rifled, and the women ravished.
Okay, so when did this happen? Who is ravishing the women? Who is the house of being ravished? This is the Lord's army right here that's doing all that. And yet he also going to bring other people and them as well to the valley of Jehoshaphat so he can fight them. So this is World War III he's talking about. Keep going.
And half of the city shall go forth into captivity, and the residue of the people shall not be cut off from the city. Then shall the Lord go forth and fight against those nations.
Not the cuddly Jesus fighting. He's fighting. Then shall the Lord go forth and fight against those nations. So what else?
As when he fought in the day of battle.
And where's he going to stand? He going to fight up from heaven?
And his feet shall stand in that day upon the Mount of Olives, which is before Jerusalem on the east. And the Mount of Olives shall cleave in the midst thereof toward the east and toward the west. And there shall be a very great valley. And half of the mountain shall remove toward the north, and half of it toward the south. And ye shall flee to the valley of the mountains, for the valley of the mountains shall reach unto Azel.
Okay, well, the Lord is fighting on the earth. That means everybody else is going to be in heaven, though. Keep going.
Yea, ye shall flee like as ye fled from before the earthquake in the days of Uzziah, king of Judah. And the Lord my God shall come, and all the saints with thee.
All the saints going with him as well. So we all fighting on the earth. After the 2 million man army killed a third of the earth, killed a third of man, then the Lord going to bring everybody else who didn't repent, that we read, to the valley of Jehoshaphat and their armies, and then he's going to do some more killing. Verse 6.
And it shall come to pass in that day that the light shall not be clear nor dark, but it shall be one day which shall be known to the Lord, not day nor night.
You're still reading that it's going to be completely dark. Keep going.
But it shall come to pass that at evening time it shall be light. And it shall be in that day that living waters shall go out from Jerusalem, half of them toward the former sea, and half of them toward the hinder sea. In summer and in winter shall it be. And the Lord shall be king over all the earth. In that day shall there be one Lord, and his name one. All the land shall be...
Now let's go to Psalm 7. So let's read about how he's going to fight. How he's going to plead with individuals. Psalm 7, verse 11. Psalm 7, verse 11. Go ahead.
God judgeth the righteous, and God is angry with the wicked every day.
All right, so he's talking about righteous and the wicked. Verse 12.
If he turn not...
If who don't turn? The wicked. If the wicked don't turn, what happened?
He will wet his sword.
Wet his sword. With what? What did he wet his sword with? Keep going.
He hath bent his bow and made it ready. He hath also prepared for him the instruments of death. He ordaineth his arrows against the persecutors. Okay, so let's see what he wet his sword with. Because he's saying, I'm going to kill these cats. That's what he's saying. Joel 3. Joel, whatever you want to say it. Travis going to tell me how to say it afterwards. All the words, he's going to sit it down. It's not Zerubbabel, it's Zerubbabel. Joel 3, verse 1. Joel 3, verse 1. Go ahead. For behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem, I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel.
There you go again. He's about to come out and fight. This is, during this time, it's the year of Pentecost. It's the year where Israel will be set free. He will come back and free his people. But he's letting you know that I'm going to come back down here and fight. This is the parable of the fig tree. So we already know this stuff is coming by. So we got to see what we are being prepared with and what side we're going to be on. We're going to be in Jehoshaphat fighting with him? Against him? How is it going to happen? Keep going.
Whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. And they have cast lots for my people, and have given a boy for an harlot, and sold a girl for wine, that they might drink.
Verse 9.
Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles.
So he said, say this to the Gentiles. What do you say?
Prepare war.
Prepare war.
Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up.
Come to the valley. Come on. Verse 10.
Beat your plowshares into swords, and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. Assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord. Let the heathen be wakened, and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, for there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. Put ye in the sickle.
So he said he gonna wet his sword. All right, he said, put ye in the sickle. That's his sword. Put ye in the sickle. What else?
For the harvest is ripe.
Harvest is ripe. Keep going.
Come, get you down, for the press is full, the fats overflow, for their wickedness is great. Multitudes in the valley of decision.
That's the valley of Jehoshaphat. So multitudes of individuals going to be in there. Keep going.
For the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision. The sun and the moon shall be darkened, and the stars shall withdraw their shining.
All right. That's it. So now let's go to Revelation 14, and let's read about this sickle. I'm still trying to figure out what he's going to wet his sword with. Revelation 14. Revelation 14 and verse 14. We're almost done. They was yelling at me because last time I only took 10 minutes. And now, 14. Now everybody's going to yell at me because something else. Revelation 14. I can't say words right. I can't. Revelation 14 and 14. Go ahead.
And I looked, and behold, a white cloud, and upon the cloud one sat like unto the Son of Man, having on his head a golden crown, and in his hand a sharp sickle.
Same sharp sickle we read up in Zechariah. Joel 15.
And another angel came out of the temple, crying with a loud voice to him that sat on the cloud, Thrust in thy sickle, and reap, for the time is come for thee to reap, for the harvest of the earth is ripe. And he that sat on the cloud thrust in his sickle on the earth, and the earth was reaped. And another angel came out of the temple which is in heaven, he also having a sharp sickle. And another angel came out from the altar, which had power over fire, and cried with a loud cry to him that had the sharp sickle, saying, Thrust in thy sharp sickle, and gather the clusters of the vine of the earth, for her grapes are fully ripe. And the angel thrust in his sickle into the earth, and gathered the vine of the earth, and cast it into the great winepress of the wrath of God.
The wrath of God. 20.
And the winepress was trodden without the city, and blood came out of the winepress, even unto the horse bridles, by the space of 1,600 furlongs.
So that's how long, that's how much blood is going to be. It's going to be up to a horse's eyebrow, and up to, what does it say, a space of 1,600 furlongs? Travis, you probably know what that is.
A couple miles.
200 miles. 200 miles of just blood. So when he said he's going to wet my sword, that's what he's wetting with. The blood of people. Revelation 19. Revelation 19 and 11. 19 and 11. 11? Yeah, 11. Go ahead.
And I saw heaven open, and behold, a white horse. And he that sat upon him was faithful and true, and in righteousness he doth judge and make war. His eyes were as a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns. And he had a name written that no man knew but he himself.
So this is Jesus right here, but at this time he's going to have a name that no one knows. 13.
And he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of God.
So his whole vesture will be dipped in blood, because he is sticking his sickle in everybody, killing everybody. Verse 14.
And the armies which were in heaven followed him upon white horses, clothed in fine linen, white and clean. And out of his mouth goeth a sharp sword, that with it he should smite the nations, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron. And he treadeth the winepress of the fierceness and wrath of Almighty God. And he had on his vesture, on his thigh, a name written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And I saw an angel standing in the sun, and he cried with a loud voice, saying, To all the fowls that fly in the midst of heaven, come and gather yourselves together unto the supper of the great God.
Supper of the great God. So what is that? 18.
That ye may eat the flesh of kings and the flesh of captains.
There's so many people down on the ground dead that he's going to have the birds come and eat them. That they may eat the flesh of kings and the flesh of captains, and what else?
And the flesh of mighty men, and the flesh of horses, and of them that sit on them, and the flesh of all men, both free and bond, both small and great.
It has nothing to do if you're a Jew or not. If you're not on the right path, you are done. 19.
And I saw the beast, and the kings of the earth and their armies gathered together to make war against him that sat on the horse.
Yeah, my bad. Skip it. I like it. It's okay. Deuteronomy 32. Oh, we should have finished. Deuteronomy 32. And verse 35. When you get there, brother.
To me belongeth vengeance and recompense. Their foot shall slide in due time, for the day of their calamity is at hand. And the things that shall come upon them make haste. For the Lord,
Let's get down to 39.
39. See now that I, even I, am he, and there is no God with me. I kill and I make alive. I wound and I heal. Neither is there any that can deliver out of my hand.
So if you don't have that mark, if you don't have that father name in your forehead, that's it. For either you're gonna get done by his army, or you get done by him. Verse 40.
For I lift up my hand to heaven and say, I live forever. If I wet my glittering sword and my hand take hold on judgment, I will render vengeance to mine enemies and will reward them that hate me.
He let him know, hey, if I wet my sword, bro, that's it. Hey, if you see it, you no longer after that. Verse 42.
I will make mine arrows drunk with blood, and my sword shall devour flesh, and that with the blood of the slain and of the captives, from the beginning of the revenges upon the enemy.
All right, so last one, Jeremiah 25. Jeremiah 25. Verse 30. Go ahead.
Therefore prophesy thou against them all these words, and say unto them,
So, hey, tell everybody this.
the Lord shall roar from on high, and utter his voice from his holy habitation. He shall mightily roar upon his habitation. He shall give a shout, as they that tread the grapes, against all the inhabitants of the earth.
So you already know what that means. 31.
A noise shall come even to the ends of the earth, for the Lord hath a controversy with the nations. He will plead with all flesh. He will give them that are wicked to the sword, saith the Lord. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, behold, evil shall go forth from nation to nation, and a great whirlwind shall be raised up from the coast of the earth.
You already know what that is, too.
And
What that is. 33.
And the slain of the Lord shall be at that day from one end of the earth even until the other end of the earth.
So there'll be bodies everywhere. Everywhere. Keep going.
They shall not be lamented, neither gathered, nor buried. They shall be dung upon the ground.
I hope you got some understanding in Jesus.
Sabbath